Happy August 2026 and welcome back to AMN Academy. This is Ervin Temporal of 9.09er English, the official English review provider of the nurses of AMN Healthcare International. Every month, we conduct two live sessions. First Wednesday of the month, we feature an IELTS passer. Of course, we would like to inspire and motivate the others who are still preparing for their IELTS examination. And every third Wednesday of the month, this is when I conduct live lectures on various subtests of the IELTS, namely listening, reading, writing, and speaking. But for tonight, because it's the first Wednesday, we are going to feature an IELTS passer, and we have Nurse Emilie joining us in a few minutes. For now, we would like to greet all the nurses worldwide. Good evening if you are in Asia. Good afternoon if you're in the Middle East and Africa. And good morning if you are based in the Americas. What's so good about AMN Healthcare International, they sponsor the English journey of the nurses going to the United States of America. So we know for a fact that there are a lot of people who are on a tight budget. But if you qualify for the sponsorship of AMN Healthcare International, you don't have to spend a single centavo for your preparation because the qualified nurses of AMN Healthcare International are being sent to 9.09er English for their IELTS online review. And it also comes with face-to-face classes in selected cities in the Philippines. That is why for tonight, we are going to follow the journey of Miss Emilie, who passed her IELTS examination. And like you guys, Miss Emilie is planning to go to the United States of America, and she passed the IELTS examination. So, Miss Emilie, good evening. Will you please greet our live viewers worldwide?
Hello. Good evening to everyone who are watching.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So let's get right into it. Obviously, there are people who find certain subtests easier, and there are certain subtests which are more challenging. So let's begin with the easiest subtest. So for you, Miss Emilie, of the four components of the IELTS, there's listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Which subtest did you find to be the easiest of them all?
I think that would be reading.
And
Reading.
please tell us more and why you considered the reading subtest to be the easiest, and what are the tips and tricks that you'd like to share to fellow examinees who are preparing for this subtest.
Well, it's for me it's reading because I like reading ever since I was still young. And what is good is that the answers are just there within the passages. You don't have to look anywhere and you won't miss a thing if of course you know the strategy on how to look for the answer. So I believe that, I mean, for me, it's reading. Although I can also do well in the speaking, but it's reading which I consider the easiest. Because sometimes in listening, you can miss the, especially if the pronunciation of the, or the speed of the speaker is is quite fast. So you might miss the answer. But in reading, I believe you shouldn't, or I shouldn't be able to miss anything.
That is absolutely correct. So, guys, of the four components, there are two subtests, namely listening and reading, where all you have to do is to wait or find the answer. So, in the listening subtest, the speaker is going to mention all of the answers. You're not going to come up with a sentence, you're not asked for your opinion. All you have to do is to pay attention and wait for the correct answer to be mentioned by the speaker. That is the case in the listening subtest. In the reading subtest, Miss Emilie actually mentioned the correct idea, which is all you have to do is to look for the right answer in the passage. The correct information is already there in front of you. It's up for you to find the correct information in order for you to get the right answer. Whereas there are two subjective components, namely writing and speaking, which we are going to talk about later on. But this is a friendly reminder that if you're a healthcare professional going to the United States of America, there are only two band score requirements. Speaking subtest must be 7 and overall band score must be 6.5. And this means to say It doesn't really matter whatever grade you get for listening, reading, and writing, as long as your speaking is 7 and your overall band score is 6.5. So that leads us to the question, what grade is safe in listening, reading, and writing? Well, the answer, a 6 in listening, 6 in reading, 6 in writing, and 7 in speaking. That is going to give you a 6.5 overall band score. So,
Mm.
Miss Emily shared her experience earlier that she considered reading to be the easiest subtest. Now, let's turn the question the other way around. Of the three remaining subtests, there's speaking, listening, and writing. Which one do you find most challenging and why?
It would be writing, as you do not know what you will be asked. I mean, you do not know if you are given a graph, a chart, or a combination of the graph and chart, or if it's easier than the process, or the, like, yeah, it's a process. And also the writing task too, again, you do not know, or for me, I would not be able to know what is the question until, of course, I have the questionnaire or the question. So I'm not prepared, so I will, the question might be a topic that's not familiar to me. So if it's not familiar, I would have difficulty of in generating ideas. If it's something familiar, that's an advantage. But if it's not, then it would take time. So I find that challenging.
She's actually right. In fact, she is not alone because if we are going to look at the statistics of IELTS candidates, people worldwide typically get the highest grade in listening in. If we're going to look at the Philippine average, higher than 7 in the listening subtest. So next to listening, people typically get higher grades in speaking as compared to reading and writing. But looking at the last two subtests of reading and writing, the national average for reading is 6.3, whereas the national average for writing is 6.1. This means to say that consistently, not just Filipinos, but majority of IELTS candidates worldwide need to focus on the readings on the writing subtest, as this is the subtest that usually pulls down the overall band score. That might be the bad news, but I have good news for you guys. If you're a nurse planning to go to the United States of America, what did I say earlier? You do not need a specific grade in the writing subtest. As long as you get 6 in writing and your overall band is 6.5, that is safe for you to pursue your to achieve your American dream. But guys, the question is, what if you only got 5.5 in writing? Can you still go to the United States? The answer is yes, as long as the other subjects are going to pull you up. So say for instance, if you get a 7 in listening, a 7 in speaking, a 6 in reading, and even 5 in writing, you can go to America. That's what's good with the IELTS compared to other English examinations. Why? Because for other English tests, recently HRSA announced they increased the band score requirements for two other English examinations. And this is something that you need to know. For other English exams, you have to focus on all four subtests because there's a specific requirement for listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Unlike IELTS, that you just have to devote more than half of your time preparing for speaking. And with a decent overall band score of 6.5, you can go to the US. So let's talk about speaking, which is always the most important subtest for nurses going to America. So let's ask Nurse Emily over here. What did you do when you prepared for the speaking subtest, and which strategy did you apply in order for you to pass this most important subtest in going to the United States?
Well, for speaking, what I did was searched for the possible questions for speaking, and I practiced them on my own. And of course, I had a coaching. I took coaching sessions many times so that I will be, of course, it's different when you are the one answering you're the only one answering your own question. to compared to when someone asks you the question. So there's like an element of being of like nervousness. So I have to get over the that one. So and it came to a point when after having a lot of practice, I was able to overcome that nervousness. I became more confident. So that I think it really helped me.
Thank you for that insight, Miss M. Well, I've heard that a lot of people are just relying on videos on YouTube to pass the speaking
Mhm.
subtest. But earlier you highlighted the importance of feedback because when there is feedback, someone is going to tell you this is what you were able to do correctly and these are the points for improvement. So, would you
True.
please highlight the importance of the daily one-on-one coaching that is being offered by 9.09er, not just for you, not just for AMN Healthcare International scholars, but also all the reviewees of 9.09 or English who are entitled to daily one on one coaching in the speaking subtest.
Well, yeah, it's really very important. It's very useful, very beneficial as you, as well, for me, and based on my own experience, I was able to, of course, I already have I mean, I was taught the strategy. I know what I'm supposed to do while answering. I also practice the questions, the different topics. But yeah, the coaching really helped because when you are asked right there and then a question, you'll have to come up with the right words, the most appropriate and accurate words if possible. And of course, it should be grammatically, your sentences should be grammatically correct. So that was also another challenge, but I was able to overcome like my own what do you call weakness in giving answers that should be grammatically correct and of course using the right words. So that's I think the benefit, the advantage of having coaching because yes, you are forced to practice and of course your coach can give you feedback.
Thank you so much for that. So, just to give you an idea, how do the nurses enjoy the daily one on one coaching? So, it begins with your NCLEX. Why? That's because we always recommend our dear nurses to pass their nursing examination first before moving on to their English examination. That's because English exam result expires in 2 years. We don't want you repeating your English examination just because you took your English test before your NCLEX. So the journey, if you're a nurse going to the United States, NCLEX must always be conquered first before moving on to your English examination. So after you pass your NCLEX, that's when AMN Healthcare International is going to endorse you to 9.09er. First, we are going to activate your dashboard. And once you have dashboard access, you may attend daily live lectures. In fact, we have 5 schedules in a day. We have 9 a.m. Philippine time. And then afternoon lecture, we have 1 p.m. Philippine time. We also have a live writing practice at 4 p.m. Philippine time. And our evening lecture, that's 6 p.m. Philippine time. We also have speaking practice at 9 p.m. Philippine time. So just to remind you, we might be based in the Philippines, but it doesn't mean that we only cater to Filipino nurses. In fact, we are so happy that we are able to help a lot of nurses from AMN, those who are based in Africa, those who are in the Caribbean, as long as you are a nurse who passed the NCLEX and qualified to enjoy the scholarship or sponsorship of AMN, you will be sent our way. You don't have to spend a single centavo. You get access to live lectures, recorded lessons, at the same time, one-on-one coaching as highlighted by Miss M earlier. Before we continue, let's take a look at some of the questions of our live viewers. And we have one here. from Mikhail Kevane Obbs. What band score is needed for nurses aiming for the United Kingdom? Okay, so just to clarify, this is a Facebook Live session specifically for nurses going to the United States of America because AMN Healthcare International is one of the biggest agencies for nurses, for ascending nurses to the United States. But since you've asked, of course, we are going to answer this question. And by answering this question, you get to have an idea that USA is the best and most realistic destination for the nurses. So let's begin. I repeat, nurses going to America, 7 in speaking, 6.5 overall band score, and you don't need specific grades for listening, reading, and writing. Now, let's move on to UK, Australia, and New Zealand because all three of them have the same band score requirements now. At one point, Australia had higher passing scores compared to other countries, but Australia now is competing with other countries for the application of nurses. That's why Australia lowered down the requirement April of this year. So what's consistent? UK, Australia, and New Zealand require a 7 in speaking, like the United States, but these three also require 7 in listening, 7 in reading, and a 6.5 in writing. Notice that Miss M mentioned earlier that writing is the most challenging, right? So these countries have adjusted the band score requirement. They lowered it down to 6.5 because indeed it is the most challenging subject for IELTS examinees worldwide. Now, Ireland is a little more flexible for nurses because Ireland accepts 3 sevens and 1 6.5, meaning to say it doesn't matter in which particular subtest you were able to get 6.5, as long as you get 3 sevens and 1 6.5. But why did I highlight the required band scores of other countries? That's for you to have an idea that USA is the most practical, most realistic destination when it comes to English examination because US does not require a specific band score for listening, reading, and writing, unlike the other countries. So yes, please keep those questions coming because we have roughly 8 minutes more for our Facebook Live session. So perhaps we can continue with our question for Ms. Emily. Now, why did you choose IELTS over other English examinations? Well, I understand that USA accepts 5 English exams. There's IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, MET, and let me repeat. IELTS, PTE, OET, MET, and TOEFL. But of the 5, why did you choose IELTS and not the other English exams?
In my point of view, IELTS is the most widely accepted. So just in case, of course, I am planning or I am aiming for the US. So among all those English tests, IELTS is the most widely accepted. So if I change my mind or if circumstances change, then I would be safe. Like IELTS is accepted anywhere.
Miss Emily is 1000% correct, not just in the United States, but in other countries as well. Let's begin with the United States. IELTS is the only English examination accepted by both visa screen application and license endorsement. In fact, it's the only English examination accepted by all states. So, should you decide to change your mind, like today you're applying in Illinois, tomorrow you decide to go to Florida, the next day you prefer to go to New York because your relative is there, then the following day you change your mind again, you want to go to California because your friend is there, nothing to worry with IELTS because you hit all the birds with one stone if you're going to choose IELTS. And that's also the reason why in other countries, IELTS is the only English examination accepted by all visa applications in UK, US, Ireland, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So those 6 English-speaking countries accept IELTS. The problem with other English examinations, some of them are not accepted by all state boards of nursing. And if you're going to pass your English examination for one country, it may not necessarily be applicable or acceptable in another country. That's why, without a doubt, IELTS is the safest choice because it's accepted everywhere. In short, you can use your IELTS result for as many applications and as many countries as you want. But Obviously, we want you to consider the United States of America, especially because it's already August now. In just 5 weeks or 6 weeks' time, we are expecting the announcement of visa bulletin for the start of a fiscal year. And why is this good news? Because historically, there is a movement every beginning of fiscal year. Which means to say, visa processing is typically faster in the first 4 months of the fiscal year. There's October, November, December, and January. So, nurses, what are you waiting for? The moment there is movement in Visa Bulletin come September 15, please pass your IELTS, pass your English examination soon. Like when I say soon, if you can make it before Christmas. The problem with most people, they postpone their plans to next year because they're thinking, oh, maybe I'll just have to do it next year, new resolution, new me. No, 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 because visa processing for the United States is faster during Burr months, October, November, December. So please do not postpone your plans next year. Okay, now we're down to our last few questions. So let's ask Miss Emily to share with us her actual examination experience. Like, what time did she arrive at the examination venue? Was she nervous when she encountered her speaking examiner? And how was the experience taking the test with British Council? All that and more. Miss Emily, please share your actual examination experience to help our viewers to have a better understanding of what's happening on the day of the exam.
Well, I came there. I am not very, I actually forgot the time that, but I came earlier, of course, so as to become familiar with the venue. And of course, I observed. I was a bit nervous actually, and of course, I had the identity verification, so he had to go through. I had to go through that and all. So I just followed the instructions, and we were led to the room, of course, with all the other examinees. I actually have, I mean, I took the paper based because I'm traditional. Like, so for, so we had, I think I'm lucky together with the other examinees during that time because we had like separate headsets for the listening. So yeah, that was good. And I think there were very less problems, technical problems in the listening part, reading until the part of the writing. As for writing, somehow I also got nervous because yeah, mm, it's something that I haven't, I mean, that the topic was something I did not practice. But of course, I practiced how to answer the different graphs, how to describe the different graphs and charts. So I was able to at least finish it on time. Although, yeah, I did not know if I was really like, I really did it very well. But anyway, I tried my best.
Thank you for the update, Miss M. So she mentioned earlier that she took the paper-based examination. Well, I, for one, also took the paper-based examination almost 2 decades ago. So that should give you an idea that I started teaching in this industry in May of 2006. However, as of June 22, 2026, in the Philippines in particular, no more paper-based examinations. If you're going to take the test in the Philippines, it's only IELTS on computer. And FYI, you cannot take the test at home. You have to go to the testing center to take the actual examination under the supervision of test proctors or invigilators. So even if you have a laptop or desktop at home, you cannot take the test at home because that's not accepted in visa application. So moving forward, IELTS on computer is the way to go. And by the way, that trend is also going to be implemented in other parts of the globe. So if where you live right now still has IELTS on paper exam examination, if I were you, maximize that golden opportunity because that's not going to last forever because more and more countries are dropping IELTS on paper until such time that all IELTS examinations worldwide will be delivered via computer at the designated testing center. Again, not at home. Now, we move on to perhaps the last two questions. And my next question is, Miss M, are you going to recommend IELTS to fellow nurses instead of the
Ye-
other English tests?
Absolutely. I would recommend IELTS.
And
It's, yes.
yeah, please go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
All right. So, uh, IELTS, of course, as you mentioned, is the safest, and for me, it's the most widely accepted. Another is it somehow resembles or is similar to how we take tests in our schools and even during college. So, well, for me, that's a something that you are familiar with, and I am familiar with. So, I would absolutely recommend IELTS.
Thank you so much for that. Now, last few words of advice to our nurses who are still contemplating, should I take the IELTS soon? Should I wait for next year? There are those who are already in their preparation stage. It's just that they keep on postponing their plans. So perhaps they need motivation or they need to hear inspiring words from a fellow nurse who also passed the IELTS. Miss M, this is your time to touch the lives of fellow nurses who also have plans of going to the United States. Please take it
Well,
away.
thank you. So, if you plan to take IELTS but you are not yet decided, you better prepare now. Like, of course, review for it, spend time in reviewing. Never take the test without reviewing, practicing, in other words, all those subtests, especially for writing and speaking, which are the most challenging for most of us who are Filipinos. And practice as much as you can is, yeah, that's what I mentioned. And if you have not been reading in English, then make reading a habit if possible until from now on until you take the test. And of course, for listening, it would also be good if you're familiar with the different accents. So that's it.
Here's my key takeaway from what Miss M mentioned in the last few minutes. Number one, consistent correct practice is the key. Apparently, you're going to take an English examination. So how can you excel in an English examination if you don't think or breathe English? That's why think in English, write in English, speak in English until such time it becomes as natural as breathing. And then number two, she also mentioned the importance of reading. Why? You cannot give what you do not have. So if you lack ideas, definitely it's going to hurt your chances in writing and speaking. So feed your mind, read in order for you to come up with responses that are addressing the question in both writing and speaking. So that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, Miss M, for your time. Guys, don't
Thank you
worry because
too.
2 weeks from now, we are going to conduct a live lecture on IELTS. I'm still thinking, are we going to do a live lecture for speaking, writing, reading, or listening? You're about to find out in the next few days. Before I promote the Onwards and Upwards show of AMN, we have a question here from Miss Happy. May I ask if US allows one skill retake in the speaking subtest? The answer is yes. So this is what we typically recommend if you're not able to get the required band score. Number one, go for recheck first. So that if your recheck attempt is successful, then you don't have to do any retake anymore, right? But after the recheck and still you were not able to get the required band score, go for one skill retake. But after recheck and read and one skill retake, if both of them are not successful, that's the time that we ask you to Okay, double time for your speaking subtest, or maybe you can take an alternative English examination, which is TOEFL, which is also highly recommended by AMN Healthcare International. So, as mentioned, apart from the Wednesday shows of AMN, there is another show every Friday, and that's Onwards and Upwards. So, here at AMN, there's not just free lectures on next generation NCLEX, not just free Facebook Live sessions on English examinations, but there are also immigration updates every Friday. At the same time, they feature nurses who were already deployed to America to inspire the others to follow their journey. Once again, we would like to thank everyone. And don't forget to go to the website of AMN to apply. If you know anyone, or you in particular, you have not jump started your application in going to the United States, don't forget, click this link because the representatives of AMN are going to reach out. And if you're qualified, this might be your biggest step towards your American dream. On behalf of Miss Emily, we would like to thank Miss Milanes and the entire AMN team. Thank you so much for accommodating us tonight. And hopefully, we are going to inspire the others to also pursue their IELTS journey sooner rather than later. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.